her off. I'm flying through the hallway like a disco moth. Pitching to the couch, then I loop through the fan. My tiny whoop's grooving like a funky jam. I dip through the doorway, spin by the cat, bounce off the toaster, yeah, I meant to do that. Neighbors knocking, saying, what's that sound? It's my brush motor soul train getting down. Flying through the curtain, dancing on breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic, bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop it all. I got LED strobes and a shag rug trail. I'm looping through the lava lamp, leaving a tail. My whoop's got rhythm, my stick's got soul. I'm the pilot of the party, on a roll. TV remote's a gate, the lamps a dive. I'm flying like it's 7.5. No GPS, no rules, no shame. Just a funky little quad in a soul train frame. Below, we fly that flow. Below, grab that gap. No time to nap. No time to nap. Hit that roll. Funk and control. Funk and control. Bounce that wall. Bounce that all. We fly it all. Funk it all. We fly it all. Tiny whoop love, funky and free. We fly indoors, we fly with glee. Whoop it, loop it, groove it, move it, bounce it, flip it, funk it, rip it, fly that soul, don't lose control. Tiny whoop love gonna make you whole. I thread the needle through the vinyl stacks, bounce off the mirror ball, never looking back. My quad's got soul, it's got style, it's got sass. It dips through the incense like a blast from the past. I'm flying figure eights through the lava lamp glow, dodging house plants like a funky pro. My whoop's got rhythm, my stick's got heat. I'm the pilot of the party with the grooviest beat. I loop through the hallway, I dive by the broom. I'm the disco ghost in your living room. I hit that split, that's over grandma's chair. She just claps and says, boy, you got flair. I'm flying freestyle with a velvet touch. My quad so smooth it don't need a clutch. From the shag rug to the ceiling fan, I'm the funky little fly with a master plan. The curtains dancing on the breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop at all. Can't stop at all. Can't stop at all.
I'm going to do one more battery with these props on.
Hey friends, my name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Fleet Out Friday. What's in your fleet? Type it into the chat or into the comments. Yeah, what's in your fleet? Tonight, I'm going to fly my whole 1.2 inch. I hate to say the same word over and over again, but I'm going to have to say it. Fleet. I've changed a couple things recently, and I figured it would be a good time. I know I'd said that we were going to do the 75 millimeter frame comparison, Cockroach 75 Light AF versus Air 75 V2 versus Mobula 7 V4, but I forgot. And by the time I remembered, I already had like the thumbnail and everything set up. So, alas, here we are. You were just watching me fly the baby turtle, the Pro Turtle 2.5 inch again. There's going to be a part 2 edit coming out at some point here with these new VCI motors. That is Mighty Carmod's little thing. Go subscribe to them. I emailed them and asked them if I could use it every once in a while, and of course they didn't get back to me because they're a massive channel and I'm nothing the way it should be. You don't want to not be nothing. If you're not nothing, then everybody wants something for you, and it's a nightmare. So yeah, go subscribe to Mighty Carmods. They are awesome people. Super fun channel. One of my favorite channels on YouTube. They've been around forever. Fly High FPV order, yo. First thing in the order is these VCI 1103s. They're actually on sale over on their website. 1103, 11,000. I thought there were 10,000 in the video. I'm gonna have to put a little correction on screen when I do the edit. Yeah, 1103, 11,000. The only thing I don't like about these motors is the 1.5mm motor shaft. That's something that somebody reminded me of recently. I had already ordered these motors. 11 motors that are with stators that are 11mm wide. It looks like are only going to come with 1.5mm motor shafts, both above and below the bell. What? Where? Above the bell, pretty much all these motors have 1.5mm motor shafts so that propellers will fit. Where things change is in here, down below the bell. Motors that are from 7mm wide all the way up to 11mm wide have a 1.5mm thick shaft down here. Some 0702s, most 0702s, as you can see here, reduced down to 1mm. Now that we've got some GemFan 1.2-inch props coming, set up for 1.5mm, we're going to have the option to run some of these awesome Weebleed bells, 0702 bells, or Weebleed has a couple motors with these bells pre-installed that have 1.5mm up above the motor bell, and on a little tiny whoop, that'll be indestructible, which will be really cool. As the motor size gets bigger, as the stator gets bigger, so as the outside, so the measurement of the stator, the 07 in 0702 or the 11 in 1103, that is the width of the stator here. So where my fingers are, right? And so as the width of this stator gets bigger, there's more room here for a thicker motor shaft. And so how it basically works at the moment is from 7mm wide up to 11mm wide. All the motor manufacturers are doing a 1.5mm motor shaft. On an open prop setup like this with lots of power and a bunch of weight, that's going to be a motor shaft that you can pretty easily bend down here below the bell. On these bigger motors, you don't actually have to worry about bending the shaft above the bell because we're using T-mount screws. And so the T-mount screws are going to really positively locate that propeller onto the motor bell. And so you're not going to bend the motor shaft up here on these 1103s. But where you'll absolutely bend it is in here. There's a little gap at the base of the motor shaft here before it interacts with the top of the stator. And that's where on these open prop builds that are heavy with a bunch of power, you can bend the motor. And then what'll happen is the motor bell will wobble as it spins around. That creates a ton of vibrations and bad things happen. I'll bet you that if a motor company really wanted to, they could do a 2mm shaft down below the bell on one of these 11mm wide motors. Maybe not. One of the things that holds them back is the bearings that are available on the 0702s, 802s. Sometimes there will just be a metal bushing rather than a bearing, which is totally fine for those little motors. But once you get up to like 10, 11, 12 millimeter wide stators, most of those motors have dual bearings, a bearing on the bottom and a bearing on top. If there's not a bearing available that's small enough for the small stator, with the right size opening, then they won't make those smaller. That's what sometimes will limit them on the thickness of the motor shaft. This is what a bearing looks like. This is the inner diameter. This is the outer diameter. This is the inner race. These are the ball bearings. This is the outer race. This bearing here has a lot of balls in it. This has a very big inner race in comparison to the outer race. Usually there's not a big gap like this, but in order to 3D print this, they had to put a big gap. There's also usually a cage that sits in here that keeps the balls from rattling around like this. When you've got a giant inner race like this, you have a shitload of ball bearings. And what happens is the ball bearings become very small, and when you side load this, right, when like the motor shaft is going through here, and then you smash into something, right, the outside of the bearing is located in the stator, and then the inside of the bearing has the motor shaft. So when you hit something sideways, it does this. It side loads the bearing. When you've got a whole bunch of little bitty balls in there, when you do that, those little balls are going to try to leave an indentation in the outer race, right? And it's basically not good. It's better to have less, just like in dating, it's better to have less balls, but bigger ball. Well, not, you want to have the right number, but bigger balls are always better. Jesus Christ on a crutch. Bigger balls are better. The other thing that happens is when you have bigger balls, they spin more slowly. When you have itty bitty balls, they've got to spin at 1 billion RPM in there, right? Because there's more of them and they're smaller. And so the bigger balls, the better. And those are the two things, availability and bigger balls are better. Those are the two reasons that we might not see. This is also why a lot of like the 3-inch motors don't go up to the 3 millimeter motor shaft. They stay down at a 2 mil motor shaft. But yeah, so that's kind of the situation. The motor manufacturers might be able to find a ball bearing that is going to allow them on an 11 millimeter wide stator to go to a 2 millimeter motor shaft, but none of them have done it. And until we start screaming about it, they probably won't. What we see is that when you go up to a 12 millimeter wide motor, that's where you can get a 2 millimeter thick motor shaft. The main failure point on all of these motors that we run is the motor shaft. The motor shafts bend way more often than the ball bearings get destroyed in these things. The bearings get destroyed. We got to be careful. When I say ball bearings, you can mistake that saying ball. These are technically ball bearings in here. These are all the little balls. This is a bearing. And so, yeah, when we go up to a 12 millimeter wide statored motor, a lot of the times we then get a 2 millimeter thick motor shaft below the bell, which makes a massive difference in durability. And so these VCI 1103s, while they fly really good and they make really good power, they're not going to be as durable as a 1202.5 or a 1203 or a 1303 or a 1404. And so here's how it brackets out. From a 7 millimeter wide stator to an 11 millimeter wide stator, we've got 1.5 millimeter motor shafts. This is all down below the bell, okay? Up above the bell, it can be 1 mil, it can be 1.5, it could even be 2 mil. It doesn't matter. It's just hanging out up here. You can make it whatever thickness. We're talking about down below the bell. And below the bell is really important because that's what takes a lot of the impact, and that's where you can have your bell start wobbling. So from 7 millimeters wide to 11 millimeters wide, we've got 1.5 millimeter motor shafts. From 12 millimeters to 14, but technically to 15. No, to 14. From 12 millimeter wide stators to 14 millimeter wide stators, they are all 2 millimeter motor shafts. At 15 millimeters of stator width, we have one motor with a 3 millimeter wide stator shaft. It's the RC Power 1506. It's an ancient motor. It's super notchy. It's going to murder your batteries. It's an interesting motor. It's super durable, which is great because it's got that 3 millimeter wide motor shaft. That motor tells us that a 15 millimeter wide stator there is a bearing that exists for a 15 that fits inside of a 15 millimeter wide stator to have a 3 millimeter wide motor shaft. It's super annoying that none of the other 15 or 16 millimeter wide motors are using that bearing. The 16 millimeter wide motors wouldn't use that bearing. They would use a slightly bigger bearing. But regardless, 15 and 16 millimeter wide stators should be using this smaller bearing so that we can get the 3 millimeter motor shaft, but none of them do. Once we get up to 18 millimeters, that's where we start to see the 3 mil motor shaft become normal. The X-Nova 1804, one of the main reasons that motor is damn near indestructible is that it's got a 3 millimeter wide motor shaft. And then I don't know at what point they go to the 4 millimeter shaft. 5-inch motors, 2306s, 2207s, those use a 4 millimeter motor shaft. The same thing does happen though. At Kebab from FPV Cycle looked into this a while ago when him and I were talking about it, and he found that you can go to a 5 millimeter motor shaft. There are the bearings available, and he found one motor that did it. I want to say it was a 24 millimeter wide stator, whatever. It doesn't matter. Very recently though, T-Motor put out somebody let me know what size T-Motor it is. It might be a 2306, but T-Motor just put a motor out. It's either a Pacer or I forget. Somebody will chime in chat. They put out a motor with a 5 millimeter wide motor shaft, which makes me so happy. And so, yeah, there you go. As the weight goes up on these builds, if you crash a lot, it's going to become really important to try to figure out how thick of a motor shaft you can get. And that's going to be something that drives the motor selection, actually. Like these 1103s have plenty of power. I would love to stick with an 1103, but I'm going to break them. And so I'm going to go to a 12 millimeter wide stator just so that I can get the thicker motor shaft. Really Good Bad Boy says, my 5-inch have M5 shafts. Is that not 5 millimeter? Nope. The M5 refers to the nut and the threads. It's got M5 threads, but it's a 4 millimeter motor shaft. Again, we're not talking about above the motor bell, though. We're talking below the motor bell. And so M5 does not say anything about the below the motor bell. Early days of FPV, they were doing 2 millimeter motor shafts down below the motor bell, and then there would be an M5 nut on top, right? So this is like, not many people talk about this. This is one of those like super in the weeds things with motors, and it really, really matters. Like in the last 10 years of me trashing probably over 100 motors, easily 80+% of those failures are the motor shaft below the bell, between the bell and the stator. And so if there's any way to move up in motor size to get a thicker motor shaft below the bell, you are going to get such a return in durability. The reason why, for the record, the reason why I'm willing to bet that on these 11mm wide stators they could run a 2mm motor shaft is that it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that from 7mm wide to 11mm wide, they're only doing a 1.5mm motor shaft, but then from 12 to 14, they can do a 2mm shaft, but then from 15 up, they can do a 3mm, right? Those gaps don't make sense. 7 to 11 is a big gap, and then 12 to 14 is a little bitty gap, and then 15 and up is a big gap, right? So, like, I'll bet you if these motor manufacturers wanted to, they could figure out how to do a 2mm motor shaft on the 11mm wide stators, but they're not, and that's all that matters. Here's my challenge to you. Can you find an 1103 or even an 1104 with a 2mm motor shaft? When you're looking at a motor, RC and power 1202, sure. When you're looking at a motor and you get that spec sheet, of course, the motor that I click on doesn't have it. Let's see if PyroDrone has it. Nope. Come on now. Really? Where's a lot of times on AliExpress or Banggood they'll have the spec sheets. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. More often than not, you fuckers. You can't go by like this usually. This will just say like motor shaft 1.5. It'll be talking about the motor shaft up above the bell. You need to find that little spec sheet with the drawing. There we go. Okay. So if you can find this little spec sheet with the drawing, you're going to see here, right there, it's showing you the above the bell width, which is 1.5, right? This 1.5 is talking about this. But then look, you can actually see it. You can see that down here below the bell, it's wider. And usually, well, in this case, they don't. In this case, they don't. Usually, they'll give you the thickness of the motor shaft. Usually, they'll call it out right here. They'll have a width measurement, or here they'll call it out here. 1.5. That's referring to these holes here. M2 0.5. Yeah. Well, this schematic is not giving us that thickness, but. Sometimes they do. More often than not, they do. So yeah, can you find an 11mm wide statored motor that has a 2mm motor shaft below the bell? I'll be impressed if you can. I haven't played this game in a while. I used to like hammer these websites and look at every single one of these schematics to try to find the magical motor that had the bigger motor shaft that, for me, because I crash a lot, would make a huge difference. But yeah, I haven't done that in a long time. Donnie FPV with a $1.49 super chat. Thank you for the support, brother. I'm off the rails. Let's go back to mailbag. So yeah, those VCI 1103s are the main reason that I placed that order. Fly High very kindly threw in some of their unbelievably bright LEDs. So if I lose my mind, I might put these on something. But I typically don't do these. These are these crazy cob ones. I usually keep my builds sort of low key so that I don't get yelled at when I'm out flying in places. But these are just incredibly cool. Yeah, I need to I need to do a crazy build, especially because sloths, they're going to do all kinds of cool shit at night. This is apparently what you get when you order a BetaFPV CO3 camera. I wanted to order... recently, we've realized that there are a whole bunch of different versions of the CO3 camera from over the years. Some good, some bad, some super bright and like impossible to use in direct sunlight. Some not so bright. And since I was doing an order on there, I thought it might be cool to order a CO3 and see what Fly-High has on the shelf. Maybe he's got the newer, better ones on the shelf. Crazy. I didn't realize that when you order a CO3, it comes with this giant canopy here. But apparently it does. So if you need this canopy, you can get it kind of for free from Fly-High by ordering a CO3. But yeah, I'll get this guy hooked up one of these days here when we're doing a little camera comparison. We got to do another camera comparison live stream. And we'll take a look at what he's got in stock right now. The problem, the big problem with there being a whole bunch of different CO3s is that there's no way of telling when you order one what you're going to get. The websites don't have them. BetaFPV didn't change anything on them. It does look like there's two different chipsets on the back of them. We've been figuring that out over on my Discord and General Nonsense. But there's no way to know that when you order on the website, right? Like the picture on the website isn't going to show you that. Even if it does show you that, they're not going to take a different picture when that chipset changed. So there's just, realistically, there's no way to know what you're going to get, which is absolutely infuriating. But that's the most FPV thing ever. Yeah. In... probably less than a week, we'll know which CO3 that you get when you order from Fly-High FPV. Hopefully they've got a lot of them so that if it's a good one, you guys can go buy all of them. I picked up a Dogcom 4S 850 MAH batteries. These are the batteries that I run on the live broadcast gigs. I've been super happy with the Tattoo R lines that I've been running up till this point. But whenever there's a 4S 850 that I haven't tried, I'll snag it and give it a shot, see if it's... the first thing I do is weigh it, and they're always way heavier than the Tattoo R lines, which is kind of annoying. I think the Tattoo R lines are right on 100 grams. I have the scale out because I want to weigh a couple propellers here. Oh, wow. Maybe the Tattoo R lines are 80 grams. Because this is 96 grams, and Dogcom batteries are not usually lighter weight. But yeah, I go through a lot of 4S 850s. It's nice to have them. I also run these batteries on... I run these batteries on the big boy 3-inch freestyle rigs that get the hell beaten out of them. And so I like having a lot of these because, yeah, I beat them up pretty good, and they die from just being absolutely hammered ass. So yeah, snagged one of these. I've got a couple of 850. I've got 3 4S 850s that are the that are like the freestyle batteries that get pounded on. This is probably going to be the 4th of those batteries. I don't think I'll put this into... I don't have a live broadcast gig until April. And so I probably won't be able to hold back using this. I wouldn't necessarily want to like insert this in with a bunch of Tattoo R lines. You want to run the exact same thing over and over and over and over again. I don't fly those. I have 12 of those batteries that I don't fly freestyle because I want to keep them as fresh as possible. And so this will probably get hammered with freestyle. This is pretty cool. They give you a little sheet of stickers with numbers on them. This is extra handy. If you buy a bunch of these batteries at the same time, put these stickers onto the batteries, and then you'll know which one is which. If you're out flying and you over discharge one of them into the dirt, you'll be like, oh, that's battery number 7. Let me put that aside. That's the one that is going to need some special attention when I get home to not burn the house down. So yeah, this will get used on the freestyle rigs almost certainly. If I'm really impressed with it on the freestyle rigs, maybe I'll get more. Probably not though. Or actually, if it really is lighter than the R lines, if it is lighter, it's only 4 grams lighter. That's not enough to really switch all of those R lines, but yeah, you never know. So that's cool. I'm happy to have another one of these 4S850 freestyle batteries. I also got I snagged a TBS Tracer Immortal T antenna. Tracer antenna. It's a 2.4 gig Immortal T. And it's made by TBS, so it's going to be good quality. To be honest, this antenna and the long version of this antenna are the only things that I'm interested in buying from TBS anymore. Crossfire is kind of dead to me because ELRS 900 is just better. Tracer is not as good as ELRS 2.4. I've actually moved a lot of stuff over to Nomad, which is 900 and 2.4, which just demolishes, right, any radio link that TBS is going to have, because it runs on both and automatically, it connects on both and then bounces back and forth. And so, yeah, these antennas are kind of going to be the only thing you're ever going to see me buy from TBS ever again. I got a couple of these 1.8 inch props that somehow I didn't have. These are the 1.8 by 1.3. These, somebody had said, are stronger than the other HQ ultralights. I'm not really interested in a 1.8 inch tri-blade, though. What I really need is a durable 1.8 inch bi-blade. I'm going to be pulling this 1.8 inch analog 2S rig apart because I'm just so tired of these ultralight bi-blades breaking on pretty much every crash. I flew 3 batteries on this last week. On the first battery, I broke the right front prop. On the second battery, the first one crash in the first battery, and it broke this right front prop. One crash in the second battery, I forget which prop it broke, and then on the third battery, one crash broke both of these propellers. And I just went, you know what? I'm done. I can't have that. These outdoor whoop framed builds, I don't like the way they fly with tri-blades. The full tiny whoop frame with the guards is already slow enough. And the bi-blades are really, really nice. They're extra lightweight, and the motors have great response time on them, but they're just a little bit more slippery, and I really prefer that. When I put tri-blades on these, they're too grippy. They have, like, no throw. And that just kind of drives me crazy. So any of these outdoor 1.6 inch, 2 inch, 1.8 inch, full, whoop-framed builds, I'm only going to run them on a bi-blade. So I kind of got these just to have them. I like having one set of all props so that when I do prop testing, I can test them all. It cost me $3 to have, a set of these, so it's well worth it. But yeah, this thing is coming apart. This is actually going to get put into a 2-inch frame. And this is going to be where my Happy Model 1103s end up. The Happy Model 1103, just like these VCI 1103s, only have a 1.5 millimeter motor shaft below the bell. When I've had those on these open propped rigs, every time I crash hard, I bend one of the bells. I'm hoping putting those into a plastic frame, I'll have better luck. I had previously run those in a plastic frame, and I did have good luck with them. And so I know I'll have better luck with those motors in this frame. I also have not done an analog 2-inch setup. And that's driven some of you guys completely insane. So, yeah, this will be kind of cool. At some point, if there is a 1.8 inch prop that is well-balanced, lightweight, and durable, we do have the Gem Fan bi-blade, but it's not well-balanced. I will probably move this thing back to a 1.8 inch frame. I love this Happy Model M80 frame. I absolutely love it for these 2S builds. It's great, but we don't have a good propeller, and I'm done. I'm just sick of breaking these bi-blades all the time. So these M80 frames are going to get tabled for a minute. I'll try the 2-inch setup out. I'm actually going to move this over here into my little kind of like on-deck circle. It's been up there, and I keep forgetting about it when it's up there. This will be a live stream. We'll swap this over, and then we'll fly it around, and we'll see how a super lightweight 2-inch fully ducted build is. I don't have high hopes. That's an awful lot of frame and propeller for a lightweight analog build. It's great with 04. One of my favorite 04 builds is right in here. It's a 2-inch 04 setup with RC and Power 1003, 14,000s on the Gemfan Blue 2015 propellers. These guys, super durable propellers, durable enough motors. Slow build, right? Because it's got frame, but it's got it's got the full frame. But it's on 04 and it's got the Flywoo housing on it, so I can put the ND filters. That setup, I flew that setup at Pride Atlanta last year, and it was so fun. Like, nobody even knew it was there, so I got like genuine reactions from people. When I fly the bigger stuff, the Cinewhoops and whatnot at Atlanta Pride, when somebody like hears it, or when they see it out of their corner of their eye, they can kind of like, their reaction sometimes can be like, oh shit, because it's big and it's noisy and like you don't expect to see it, and there's a GoPro on it, right? With this little 2-inch 04 build, most people didn't even know it was there, so I got like their natural, just like, you know, screaming, yelling, loving life facial expression, reaction, and everything. When someone would see it there, the reaction was, oh, right, versus like, sometimes I get that reaction from a Cinewhoop, but typically not. Typically the reaction is either like, oh shit, what is that thing? Or like, oh, hi. But when they see this itty bitty little thing, it's just a whole different reaction, right? It's like, oh, look at that silly little toy. And so it's this incredible moment of like happiness when people see that thing. And so, yeah, that rig is super fun to fly. I also snagged one of these RC and Power 2.4 T-mount antennas with the little caps on it. In theory, I'm sure that this Radiomaster antenna is very well tuned, but TBS has been having antennas made for the better part of like 10 years, right? And so like a TBS antenna is gonna be really good. A Radiomaster antenna is probably gonna be really good, but they haven't been around as long. I stay away from like BetaFPV antennas or Happy Model antennas. They haven't been doing it as long, and they don't have as good quality control in theory as Radiomaster or TBS. And when it comes to QC on antennas, it's really important, because these antennas are not full wave. They would be very long if they were full wave. These are like quarter wave or fifth wave. And so if you cut that antenna like 1/10 of a millimeter too short, it's going to make a big difference in its performance. So like when it comes to antennas, you do really want to spend some money on them to get the best possible quality, because it really can make a difference. And I also snagged an additional Radiomaster XR1. This is kind of a Nomad receiver. It's kind of not a Nomad receiver. The true Nomad receivers are really expensive because they have 2 receivers on board that run all the time. This XR1 has 1 receiver, but it's the Nomad receiver that does 2.4 and 900. So I can go into the Lewis script and switch this over from 900 to 2.4, which is really, really, really nice. Especially because this is cheap. This is a cheap receiver. I think this is like $14 or $13. The true Nomad receivers are like $35. So I'm not going to put those on freestyle bashers, right? I put those proper Nomad receivers on my working gear, right? The Cinewhoops that I fly cinematic gigs with, the live broadcast gear that I fly around athletes with. And that's, and I also got this very cool little XT30 to XT60 molded. It's one big molded piece of plastic, which is awesome. So there's nothing to break on this guy. So that's what I got from Fly High. I also asked them to throw some stickers in, which they very kindly did. If it smells like chicken, you're holding it wrong. There's their logo, which is great. They have an item on their website, which is free sticker. And then they threw a bunch of these. F-Gravity. Feels just like 5 inches. And little builds. Looks like he also threw in some 3D printed XT30 covers, which is very kind of them. I don't typically use these, but when you fly with your batteries, you're supposed to use these, so they are nice to have. Put them in your flight bag, and then if somebody at TSA is being an asshole, you can say, I'm so sorry, I totally forgot to put them on when I was discharging the batteries, because that's way more important. Do not fly with fully charged batteries for everybody's sake on the plane, including your own. But yeah, have a bunch of these in your bag so that if you need them, they're there. There you go. There's our, you've successfully seen my mailbag. What you do with that mental image is on you. There's going to be another, I'm going to say hi to everybody in chat in a minute. Crom, thank you very much for the 5 squiggly line. I don't know what that symbol is, but it's 5 of some denomination. Super chat. He says, hey man, you were one of my inspirations to start streaming my FPV electronics repairs. I love that, dude. Feel free to pop in someday on Tuesdays at 1 Pacific. Pacific is what, behind? Oh, brother, I'm not even awake by then. So that's 10 o'clock my time. I'm usually still sleeping at 10. I have a super hard time sleeping, and not most mornings, but 3 mornings a week, I have to be awake at 5 a.m. to get our little high schooler awake and on the bus. And so those mornings, as much as I try to get some sleep, I typically don't, and I typically just stay up until 5 a.m., get her on the bus at 6, and then, yeah, sleep from 6 until some days 1 or 2. It depends on what I have going on. But that's awesome, dude. I didn't know that you were streaming. That is very, very cool. And the fact that you're streaming FPV electronics repairs is even cooler. We need as much of that as possible. I'm completely unwilling to go down that rabbit hole. Very cool, man. And I'm honored to have been an inspiration. The more people that I can get doing cool shit on the internet, the better. So yeah, love that, man. Thank you for telling me that. And thank you for supporting the insanity that is trying to do this full time, which has been a hell of a ride over the last 3 and a bit years. Those of you that have enjoyed it, thank you so much for being a part of this. If you want me to keep it going, I need your help. Head on over to CiottiFPV.com and do something. Change your bookmarks to my affiliate links. That's free. You have to hit affiliate links over and over and over again. So yeah, change your bookmarks. If you don't use bookmarks and you just start typing a URL into your URL bar, type Amazon right now. It's going to come up with Amazon.com. Remove that. Remove your suggestions that aren't affiliate links. And then hit a bunch of affiliate links over and over and over again. And that'll tell your browser, hey, when I type AMA, I actually want to go to this person's... I mean, your browser doesn't know that it's affiliate link, but you know what I'm saying? Patreon is the best way that you can support me, though. You can do it for as little as $3 a month, but you kind of might as well do the $5 a month because you'll get entered into Tiny Whoop toothpick giveaways first Monday of every month. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah, this coming Monday is one of those giveaways. So if you're on the $3 general admission tier, it's an awesome time to do an extra $2. When you win, eventually you will win, it's like $50 worth of stuff. So $2 extra a month. That's what, 24 extra dollars a year. If you win once every 2 years, it paid for itself. So there you go. There's also an Etsy store with lots of fun stuff that you can buy. There's a Teespring shop where you can buy some fun apparel. If you have any of my apparel or buy my apparel, take pictures of yourself wearing it and tag me on Instagram. I would love to then tag you on Instagram, and people will go to your channel and you'll make some new friends. You can also hire me for one-on-one time if you really want to learn a lot fast through Fiverr, or just message me and we'll get it scheduled. I've done 2 of those calls this week. Both people were thrilled, and were like, yeah, super, super, super worth being able to get good answers to my questions one after the other, after the other, after the other, versus buying an ESC for $80 that catches on fire because it's the wrong one. Teddy, what is your deal, brother? You are just absolutely insane right now. What are you up to? What's your damage, dog? Oh, look at him. This is a dumb game that I'm playing right now. Oh, he wants me to throw it. I can't not throw it. Oh, here's his pink one, too. He loves these donuts so much. Go get it. I shouldn't have done that. Now he's going to be... Oh. Let me at least take this toy away. This is the toy that squeaks a lot. Let's just hide this one over here. Okay. There you guys go. Hey, I flew... I'm going to do another edit. I'm going to do a part 2 Pro Turtle 2.5 inch with the 450 mAh 2S batteries that I flew earlier today. I tested 3 different propellers, so you'll get to see this on a 3rd set of motors. The first video that I did, that little edit that I did, was this with RC and Power 1003s, and then these old RCX 1103s. And so now you're going to get to see this thing on a 3rd motor, the VCI 1103 11000. And the same 3 propellers. What I didn't do last time, though, that I wanted to, was weigh these propellers. And so I'm going to do that now real quick. And I'm going to leave myself a little note because I want to include that in the review, is the propeller weights. And so, hold on, we're going to go font. What is it? Open Apple Plus for bigger? Yeah, bigger. So, in case you were wondering, and I'm going to do these weights with the motor screws because different propellers have different thickness hubs, and sometimes you have to use an M2x6, sometimes you have to use an M2x7. I have the shortest possible motor screws in all of these propellers right now. So up first is the Gemfan 2540, which was not all that well balanced, but they're not fresh. These propellers are kind of banged up, so they might just be bent out of shape. I don't think so, but I am going to try a fresh set of these on the next set of motors that I run on this thing. So for 4 of them with motor screws, it looks like 5.5 grams. Let's take this, and so we're going to do 5.5 divided by 4 is 1.375. Prop weights with screws. So 1.375 grams. German. I'm hoping that was my computer spell checking me. I'm hoping that I didn't just type German because that would be quite silly. Emax Avan Blur 2.5 inch props. I don't even know if you can get these anymore. Oh boy, these are so heavy. 7.1 Emax Avan Blur. 7.1 divided by 4 equals 1.775. And then last but not least are my favorite props so far, which are the Gemfan 2512s. Really low pitch, but they make plenty of power. And they are incredibly well balanced. They are significantly better balanced than either one of these other propellers. 4.7, which I think is the same thing as the 2540s, but let me just weight the scale and then unweight the scale real quick. Okay, 4.8. So 4.8 divided by 4 equals 1.2, and that's German. It is! Look at that. It changed it. Gemfan 2512. And what did we say? 1.2 grams. Cool. So they are the lightest, which is no surprise because they are the lowest pitch. And there we go. Now I can put the... I'm not going to put the scale away because I'm going to weigh the 1.2 inch rigs that we fly here as we go. So yeah, edit coming maybe tomorrow. I have a minute-long RC drift edit done that I might do tomorrow. Maybe I'll put the edit with this up Sunday or Tuesday, or I try to yeah, it would make the most sense to put it up on Tuesday. We'll see. We'll see if I can get it done. Cool. So I had this right here. I wanted to make sure that I did that. In the chat, what's your fleet? Let us know what your fleet is. You can certainly list out everything, but we're more talking about tiny whoops. I'm specifically going to focus on 1.2 inch tiny whoops that are analog here tonight, because those are the ones that I can actually fly live for you. And so if you have a ton of builds, then what is your 1.2 inch analog fleet? If you don't have a bunch of those, what's your 1.2 inch fleet? If you don't have a bunch of those, what's your tiny whoop fleet, right? 1.2, 1.4, 1.6, whatever you got. Type it into the chat, type it into the comments, and if there's somebody else that has a question about one of your rigs, they'll ask you. Head on over to my Discord. It's linked on CiottiFPV.com. Type it into general nonsense. Yeah, let's all give a look at what each other is flying, and inevitably somebody will be like, oh my god, I've been wondering about those motors. How do you like them on that setup? If you want to be a total overachiever, give an all-up weight on the build. Call the build out, what frame, what AIO, what camera, what canopy, right? It's easy to do with tiny whoops because we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Technically, we only have 7 total components, right? If you leave the antenna out, that's a great thing to leave out because it's whatever. Most antennas are pretty similarly weighted. But yeah, if you want to be a total overachiever, call each part of it out and give an all-up weight. If you want somebody to tag you and be like, and ask you questions about that, and maybe you make a new friend, that's how you do it. You spend more time. Go figure. Making friends is just like everything else in life. You got to put some time and effort into it. Especially as you get older, which is why I only have a couple friends. I consider you guys all my friends though, because you're unbelievably willing to sit here and listen to me scream and yell for fucking 10 hours a week every week. It's insanity. All right, I opened up this sticky note, and now there's 7,000 other sticky notes here. I just got to get a quick handle on this. Okay, hold on. We got that. Here's the chat. Speaking of the chat, Flankadelic was first, Sleepy CBR was next, Sporny FPV, Frank Dr. Nicholas, Matthew Wegner, Dylan Moe, Burlack, Level Up, Mr. Clean, Doc Holiday, B. Kirk, Florida Engineer, Jeremy Flies FPV, Levster, Uriel, Doc Holiday, Sporny, Really Good Bad Boy, Tanky FPV. That's the first page. If you want the gangly to read your name, you got to get in here early, or just type at CiottiFPV and I'll read your chat comment. Levster says, hey everyone in CiottiFPV. Uriel says, I just sent it an email to the bingo mail address. You changed the address? Nope, same email address. Sporny says, you're also using your tongue to clean your camera lens. I always thought I'm the only one. No, don't do that. Don't use your tongue to clean your camera lenses. There are enzymes in your spit that will break down the coatings on the lenses, so don't do that. It's bad enough that I clean my camera lenses with soft t-shirts. You're not supposed to do that because the oils from your skin get on your t-shirts. And t-shirts are not quite soft enough. You should really be using lens cleaning cloths to clean the lenses of your cameras. But I've been cleaning DSLR camera lenses with t-shirts for 20 years, and I've yet to have any scratches. But don't use your spit, or don't do that, because that's just your spit. Yeah, if you need to get a camera lens wet, walk your ass to the sink and just use water, or they make lens cleaning solutions that are even slipperier than water. The proper word is they have more lubricity. Lubricity is a word in the car detailing community that refers to how slippery something is, because when dirt is the enemy. Dirt, if you look at little molecules of dirt under the microscope, they're jaggy and very craggy and sharp. And so when there's dirt on something that you don't want to have scratches, you want to put a liquid on there that has a lot of lubricity, where it's very slippery, and then you're going to use like a microfiber or another like very soft cloth that's going to like grab that dirt basically and then get it off of that surface before it gets driven into it and slid sideways to scratch it. So there you go. There's a bunch of information that you don't care about or ask for. This motherfucker. This son of a bitch ate a brownie off of this exact surface that he's eating this donut off of right now the other night. And I stayed up until 8 a.m. making sure that he didn't die from the chocolate. Apparently brownies are the worst possible thing for dogs to eat because they are loaded with cocoa. And there's something in cocoa that is very toxic for dogs. And so this is him, I guess, telling me that he wants more brownies. He's been very, very, very good with me in terms of not eating my food. I've been able to leave food anywhere and he won't touch it. The rest of the house, he's not terrible, but he's not very good. He will eat food right out of the other people in this house's hands if they turn their head away. He's always been really good, but this time I walked all the way out of the room, all the way upstairs to the refrigerator, and I'm assuming that he could hear me walking up there, and he ate a piece of brownie that was like that big, basically, which is why I didn't freak out and take him to the ER. But yeah, luckily he's been totally fine. I've been watching him like a hawk, though. I was freaked the fuck out. Because he's my little guy, you know? Uriel says, Happy Model 6, but I cannot fly. My Reich is too small. You live in a Reich? That's wild. Dylan Moe says, oh, there we go. Dylan Moe is calling out his fleet. Air 65R for race, Air 65 to race, Ultimate Freestyle, trying out the 40,000 kV 1.5mm rotor shaft skirt motors. Teddy, this is a bit much, my little friend. You gotta chill out, or you're gonna have to go upstairs and get beaten in that order. Florida Engineer says Analog 2S 75mm OG Air 65 and a part spin 1S Mobula 75 V4 on 1002s. Very cool. Uriel says if I have dimensions, I could deliver repair shafts. I would go to a CNC tuner. That's pretty cool. Motor repair shafts would be tough because you wouldn't have any way to like laser weld them to the bell. But that's a super interesting idea. Florida Engineer says bigger balls and larger shafts. Got it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you again for the super chat, Donnie FPV, and Crom as well. Sporny says you could also go into attack mode and build a Karen blinder. Nice. Double Jose says I subbed to your Patreon, but I didn't see your Discord on there. Is there a link I missed? No, there's no way to do that, unfortunately, on Patreon. Go to my website, CiottiFPV.com. There's a link to Discord. And then in the Patreon-only section of my Discord, there's one text channel that is open to everyone called Welcome to the Gangly Gang. Click on that, and there's instructions in there how to link. Teddy, you're out. You're out, bro. Upstairs. 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 Get. You. Don't just lay down. You little bastard. Oh, God! Forgot about the pull-up bar. Nothing. Everything's okay. I have the pull-up bar on that door, and when I forget about it and close the door, it... Jeremy Flies FPV says, I'm having a hard time understanding the difference between Centre Sensitivity and Expo in the rates tab. Great question. Center stick sensitivity is right here. It's like the nothing in the middle. and then Expo is all up in here. And then maximum rotation is out here. So Expo, if this is maximum rotation, Expo starts there, and it goes all the way almost to the very center. And so the Expo is where you spend most of your time, which is why the Expo is like the most important rate to focus on. The center stick sensitivity is mainly there to get rid of the notch when you cross over. And so if you like the way it looks when you like really darty bounce back and forth from one direction to the other, you know, pitch forward to pitch back, roll left to roll right, then you want to make your center stick sensitivity really high. I run my center stick sensitivity almost as low as it'll go because I want the transition from rolling one direction to the other direction to be butter fucking smooth. I don't want it to be all jerky and insane. I want it to look very cinematic because, you know, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so, yeah, good question. The center sensitivity, it's hard to tell. If you change that, it's hard to feel the difference. It's hard to see the difference. The Expo, you make a change to the Expo, it's super obvious. Levster says, talked to Anthony from BetaFPV, and he told me, yes, indeed, they changed the sensor and the processor chip that helps to increase the low light capabilities. I'm assuming we're talking about the CO3. Very cool. Did he happen to say when? Tanky says, yeah, I had that problem with the CO3 camera. Had an old or fake one too, and probably destroyed my VTX on Mobula 6 Race. That thing was getting crazy hot when I plugged in the battery. That's weird. A fake FPV camera? You wouldn't think that they made enough FPV cameras for it to make sense for anyone to make a fake one of it. But you never know. China gonna China. Levster says, check general nonsense. I posted the email. There it is. Anthony from BetaFPV. Yeah, he doesn't say when. But yeah, it's my pleasure to assist you. Anthony, technical support. CO3 camera. The main updates, camera sensor processing chip was improves the performance in low light conditions. Interesting. The new ones, I haven't really, they've always been good in low light. It's high light, a lot of light, that they've had problems. And the new ones seem to be better in super bright conditions. So interesting that he called out low light, but not anything else. Brandon's White Bean says, Nomad is awesome, but make sure to set the antenna mode to switch instead of Gemini if the receiver is single antenna. Gemini can cause interference if it's not connected to a diversity receiver. Interesting. Make sure to set the antenna mode to switch instead of Gemini. So that would be on the module. And my current setup is that I use I've always hated the idea of taking these modules out and putting them back in all the time because these pins are just, you guys know what I'm talking about. Those 5 or 6 pins that go into the module are just ridiculously, like, I'm about to break looking. And so this is my transmitter that I use for work that has the Nomad permanently in it, which is set to Gemini. And so this is basically the transmitter that I fly all of the builds that are on, that have proper expensive Gemini receivers on. And so this is set to Gemini. And then my old transmitter that I fixed the gimbal on is the transmitter that I use for everything that's on the single non-Nomad, either 900 or 2.4s. And so, yeah, I'm assuming, it sounds like I won't have an issue because of that. Because, yeah, that thing only ever connects to proper Gemini receivers. That was the thing. That's the big change in ELRS 4.0, isn't it? I'm pretty sure that is the main highlight of the brand new ELRS. And one of the reasons that I haven't bothered to update to it, because I fixed that issue in a bit of a different way. Also, that allows me to put all the abuse, all the freestyle abuse into one transmitter and not the other transmitter, right? I really like that idea of having the transmitter that I use for important gigs that, you know, I can't make a mistake on, just sit there and not get a ton of miles on it. You know what I mean? Brandon's very next message is ELRS 4 makes this tidbit of advice obsolete. Yeah. So that's the big bonus of ELRS 4. I don't know of any other things in ELRS 4 that are really worth it for us to update, but you never know. I didn't dig too deep into it. Burlak says, I've got the 1.2 inch Gemfan tri-blades with 1.5 millimeter shafts, and they're unfortunately a bit out of balance. The bi-blades are solid at least. Hope we get more options soon. Oh my god. So I'm assuming what Burlak is talking about is the 1219s. We've had the Gemfan 1210 bi-blade available for a long time, thanks to Weebleed, in 1.5 millimeter rotor shaft. And that propeller is fine. It's not great, though. It's a heavy bi-blade. And Weebleed managed to convince Gemfan to make some more 1.2 inch, 1.5 millimeter motor shaft props. The first one that's that I see in stock is the 1219, which is a much better propeller than the 1210. But if it's out of balance, it's worthless. The other propeller that it looks like they're going to be making in 1.5 mil motor shaft is the 1207, the new one, which I don't love because it's a little bit too fragile. But if it's the blades are too fragile. And then so if we put that on an indestructible 1.5 millimeter motor shaft, it's pointless. Because the blades are just going to bend up and you're going to have to constantly replace them. Oh god. The 1219 is a really durable propeller. But if it's out of balance, it's worthless. Come on, man! Why? Why is this our lives? Brad Bonden says, a few streams ago you said you wouldn't buy the Flylens 85. What would you build for indoor close quarters professional 04 Pro work? To be honest, I fly full-size Cinewhoops inside. Because they've got the big tall ducts on them, which makes them really slow, and they look great. Because they've got that weight, they're very smooth. These super lightweight rigs, like, to me, the only reason to fly these really lightweight things is if you're under some sort of a if you're going to be flying over a crowd, for example, right, and you have to be below 100 grams or whatever. I haven't had any of those gigs yet. When I do indoor flying, it's not necessarily over people. To be honest, though, you don't even need to, because you don't have to worry about the FAA when you're flying inside. And so for indoor stuff, it doesn't matter. Fly the thing that is going to perform the best so that you don't crash. Something like this, like, you would think that this would be better than a big fat Cinewhoop, but this has a non-existent duct on it, right? This is like a prop guard. This isn't going to slow this thing down at all. And so this, even though it's going to weigh so much less than a full fat Cinewhoop, this is probably going to be a lot more difficult to fly inside because it's going to slide all around from not having enough vertical surface to slow the damn thing down. One of the reasons that I built the Avata Killer is to get around that. It's so that if I have a client that wants me to fly slowly inside of a building, but they don't need GoPro, even though I could put a GoPro on this, but the whole point is to not carry a GoPro because I have other rigs for that. This is it, right? We've got the maximum possible vertical surface to make this thing really slow. And then we've got 04 Pro. We can run big old batteries. We can get crazy runtime. This will get like 10 minutes of runtime, right? Or I can run itty bitty batteries and get 3 or 4 minutes. And so, yeah, this is what I built to kind of do that. I don't know if I can really recommend that. What you want to look for is something, and I don't know if this exists, but you want to look for something like this with big, tall ducts, big, tall guards. That's what really makes things way more accurate to fly inside, and the more accurate it is, the safer it is. And so, yeah, that's what I would look for if it were me. The other reason I built that was for clickbait, basically, and out of curiosity. I had the frame sitting here. Matt McConnell from McConnell Studios had sent me that Cinewoop build that he wasn't using anymore, and I just added the 04 Pro to it, basically. But yeah, that's it's really annoying that there aren't more of these lightweight 04 Pro carrying setups with proper ducts on them, so that they're safer to fly, right? This is just a stupid prop guard. Like, you hit somebody with this, and it's like going to be super easy for the tip of this propeller to get all tangled up in their clothes or their skin, or like this I don't know if this is any safer than the Avata killer there. It's so, yeah, that's what you're looking for. I haven't seen it out there. You know, everybody seems to love the shot glass frame and builds. Those are even worse than this, because instead of having a nice rounded piece of plastic for the infinitesimally small prop guard, they've got a sharp ass piece of carbon fiber. And so, like, I don't want that smashing into my forehead at 30 miles an hour. That's going to be a fucking nightmare. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen any like 100-gram builds that give me any kind of confidence for flying an 04 Pro around people. I haven't really dug into it and looked all that hard because I haven't gotten a gig doing that yet. If I do, I will. But yeah, I haven't really seen it. Sporny says, I told you at least 2 times that Crom is doing English streams now, fart face. I don't remember things, Sporny. You know, there's hundreds of people that tell me all kinds of things four times a week. I can't remember stuff. Thank you for telling me, though. Matthew Wegner says, you may be greatly underestimating the willingness of this audience to watch you play fetch with Teddy for 5 or maybe even 10 minutes. Euro says, does Kenny like the Dutch candy? Who's Kenny? Teddy? Teddy gets no candy. He's bad. Chef Bruno says, I'm going to hire CiottiFPV on Fiverr just so I can have someone to talk to. I ain't got no friends. You got more friends than you think you have, I promise. And we've all got people that consider us to be their friends that, for whatever reason, we don't. I've learned this in life. YouTube did the thing. Scroll me to the bottom. Try to find my spot. Amp Batch says, one of my favorites in my fleet is an analog Flywoo Firefly 16 frame JHE MCU board from YMZ FPV Lightning 2. Flywoo Robo 1002, 15,500 kV motors, 1610 biblades on 2S. Very cool. Firefly 16. Which one's that? Is that the one with the stupid little TPU strings around the outside? No. Is it? No. It's a toothpick. Ah, very cool. Yeah, it's a fun build, I'm sure. All aerodynamic from being toothpicky. Burlak says, I've limited myself to 2 1.2-inch builds, one for race and one for freestyle, narrowed it down from 5 or 6 that I rarely flew. Culled the whole fleet down to just 1 per battery size. It's the way to do it, man. CiottiFPV says, Tiny Go Mod Vista 3S 1636 RC power, 11,500 Catalyst Machine Works Massive Droner Mods 2450 TBC. We were talking about that one the other day. Frank Dr. Miracle says, Lulubricidus is a word. Is there an extra lu in there? There's an extra lu in there. Yeah, lubricidus. There it is. Wait, no, there's not a T. Lubricius. Oh, look at that. Lubricious. Wait, no, is that lubricious?
Lubricious.
Works well. Wait, no.
Lubricious.
Lubricious. Look at that. Having a smooth or slippery quality. Marked by wantonness. Oh, boy. About to get demonetized from that shit. What happened to my fucking OBS window? Where have you gone, OBS? There it is. Where's the pop-up? Jeff Bruno says, someone told me to spit on the umagrep and it will work while I use water and a paper towel, but still, I don't know what. That was me. I told you that. Don't spit on your lenses, but do spit on your umagrip. When umagrip starts to get dirty, just get some spit on your finger and rub it down a little bit, and the dirt and shit will like bundle up into little balls, and then you can get it off of there, and when it dries, it'll be nice and sticky again. Nomad FPV says, what are your thoughts on the TrueRC Smol antenna? I fly an Air 65 and I wondered if it's worth the lightweight versus durability. Looks pretty delicate too. They break easily. They break infinitely easily. You cannot crash with those antennas on. They will break on like the first crash. If you can get that antenna somewhere that it's not going to hit the ground, they're great because they're super lightweight and they're made by TrueRC, so they're beautifully well tuned out of the box. But as soon as you crash it, it's out of tune. So yeah. Levster says 65mm RC and power 702 31/8 Matrix AIO light AF frame CO3 cam maple wireless light HQ ultralight 3BL BetaFPV V2 canopy dry weight 18.05 grams. Giddybot says, what's up, Gangly Man? Forgot to update you on PEBA. I think it's trash for combat robots. But I think it'd be great in FPV since it won't be getting trashed by steel blades going 30,000 RPM. How does it hold up compared to TPU? I'm assuming that TPU is pretty bad as well. Well, maybe not. Uriel says, I know about dimensions in ISO norm P7 or H6. That's maybe 0.01 difference, but then you pressure a axe into its hole. I don't know what any of those words mean. And those words being together didn't help me at all. Sorry, dude. Levster says, 29,000 kV, 702 RC and power crown antenna, Air 65 V2 BI, V1 canopy, BetaFPV matrix, 18.5, and an Air 65 light AF whip antenna, 16.9 grams. Very cool. Crom says, 04 Caillou Mini, HDZero Caillou Mini, X8 Caillou Mini, Hex Caillou Mini, 5-inch. It would be a 5-inch Caillou, not a Mini, right? If it's 5-inch, putting that CNC to good use. Very cool. Brandon Bean says you can just use model match and make one model and model number for single and another for diversity. Interesting. Okay. The module can store 200 model profiles and automatically switch them, or ELRS4. Nice. Yeah, I haven't used different models on my radio in probably like 6 or 7 years. Forgot about that, to be honest. Ramalala says, so if you bought a ELRS Boxer recently, does that mean you'd be slightly future-proofed? And who said update? Not really, to be honest. Like, ELRS sort of is ELRS. You're not really future-proofed with that radio over any other one. I guess you could kind of say that you were future-proofed with that G12 transmitter because it has Nomad built in, but yeah, other than that, like a transmitter with ELRS, it's just got ELRS. It's great because you don't have to run a module, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that you're future-proofed, other than the fact that ELRS is going to be probably around for a while, and so yeah, you're good there. Yafu says, have you ever done a multi-operator rig? A friend of mine is doing an AOS UL10 with one. Looks super interesting. I haven't. I would love to, but they're pretty expensive, and it's, you know, you kind of have to build the setup around it. If I started doing more live broadcast action sports stuff and I had a reliable like second pilot, that could come with me, that these places would be willing to pay for, I would absolutely love to do that. But it's a whole thing, right? You got to have a whole separate person, which is going to have a whole separate day rate. The gigs that I get, they don't have that kind of money to put that into. And then, you know, I've got to spend another $500-600 on that whole setup all the time into testing it, right? So it's like a whole big thing. I would love to do it, but until somebody's willing to pay for it, you know, I tend to not do stuff. I'm not in a position that I can afford to, you know, just go ham, like building a lifter, for example, and then try to get work with it. And I don't necessarily think that that's a good idea. You know, I've always operated under the principle of like, I can build and test stuff pretty damn quick. And so if there's a gig that requires something that I don't have, build it, test it, and fly it, and hopefully it pays for itself, versus spending a whole bunch of money and then hoping that I can at least break even on it. Like, that's not, I've always operated the complete opposite side of like, take stuff that I have built and then make way more than it's worth, right? I've had to do that because I started doing this. I started doing FPV full-time when I got laid off, which is not the right way to do it, right? Like, turning your passion into your job is, you keep your normal job that pays all of your bills, and then you monetize your passion. And then when you're making as much money from your passion as you are from your regular job, you quit your regular job then. I did it the completely insane way, where I had no monetization whatsoever, and I started from scratch. And so, yeah, I didn't have $100,000 in the bank just waiting for me for this, like pretty much all of the other pro pilots did, to be able to just bankroll builds and then try to, you know, find gigs from them. So yeah. Where are we at here in chat? Rick Sanchez says, wondering about the difference between setting your radio trims to match 1,000 bottom stick and 2,000 top versus the way you did it during the Mobula 6 live stream. It's going to kind of accomplish the same thing, other than the fact that if you change things in your radio, you might need to have different models for everything. I don't do that. I have one model on my transmitter, and that just sends what it sends, and then each individual rig I can make an adjustment if I need to. But typically I don't. The transmitter sends 9 whatever it is, whatever you saw on that live stream, 989 or 988 every time, and then 2011 or whatever it is every time. And so, yeah, it's I don't think there's a better way of doing it. I think it's just, you know, 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. Wayne Hunter calling out his fleet. I got to get through this because it's already 8:30, and I got to start flying. And talking about these different builds. B-Minded says, awesome, thanks. Could you give me the quick rundown of the Avata Killer, or I can go watch the stream? Electronics don't matter. They, you know, if they work, great. If not, you're going to change them. It's on motors you can't get anymore. They are 2004 3500 kV, though. There are a bunch of 2004 3500 kV motors. If you can get higher than that kV, great. These are old school, super lightweight Brother Hobby VYs. And then it's a FPV Cycle Cinesplore V1 frame, the older one that's lighter weight. It's the Stan FPV ducts for it, the HQ port ducts on the Stan FPV website. And then propellers change quite a bit, but I really like the 5-bladed gem fans, the D76s. You don't really need those propellers unless you want to be really slow and really quiet. I actually like that rig on the tri-blade gem fan Cinewoop propellers. I gotta learn how these freestyle shark watches work. I keep accidentally hitting the buttons, and then I don't know how to get them back to the time. I got it. There we go. Yukon FPV says down to 165 millimeter for the Air 2. Need to order some AIOs. Nyafu says took my Marriott build to do some low to the ground flying as well as orbits around my father while on a walk today. Holy moly, it feels like flying through gyroflow. So smooth, nice. Crum says no, it's a 5-inch Caillou Mini, just longer arms. Oh my god, dude, that's absurd. A Caillou Mini body with 5-inch arms must be the most hysterical looking thing ever. There must be 18 feet of propeller in view. Holy hell, dude. That's wild. GiddyBot says, I'll post some before and after pics in the 3D printing channel. TPU does way better resisting cutting and tearing / delamination. Interesting. Interesting. Ramalala says the affiliate list has grown. Yeah, every once in a while I get a new one on there. Good to go. Fleet review from CiottiFPV. We're going to weigh all of these real quick here. And I'm going to put the scale under the bench cam. Oh, God. Hold on. I'll turn it off and on. And I'm going to call out the weights for you so you don't have to try to read them on the screen. But I want you to be able to see what I'm weighing. This is one of the analog RC drift car chasing builds. It is 18.5 grams. This is a, I'll leave it here. This is a Cockroach 65 V3 frame, which is required for these rigs for the little hooks on it, which allows me to link up the little Batwing mount, which you can either buy from my Etsy store or find the file over on my 3D printing text channel on Discord. This is a CO3 camera in here. This is a 2G4 AIO. I just last night changed the antenna over to a TrueRC Singularity Ultra Short. These are Tiny Whoop 0702 36,000 kV motors on HQ 1.2 by 0.9 by 3 propellers with BT 2.0 up front. This allows me to push the battery farther back to offset the weight of the camera and the TPU up front. So this thing ends up being very well balanced once the battery is in here. When the battery is not in here, it's very nose heavy. But, you know, when we put the batteries in, they always slide farther back because of the little plastic cap, right? And so when you have your battery in here, most of the battery is back here. You can certainly adjust it a little bit, but they usually want to sit back. So with the battery in this, it's almost perfectly balanced because I've got the lead up front. I don't love having the lead up front because it's the lowest point and it ends up hitting this lead. But it is nice to have the CG a little bit better on it. So there's an analog drift chasing build. This is the old school Super X V1 AIO. This build's actually going to be for sale soon. Good Lord, is it light? 16.5 grams. Cockroach 65 V3 frame for the tall ducts. This is an indoor monster. We want it to be as slow as possible. We've got the VCI bushing 0702 30,000 kV motors. Super powerful. We've got the same propellers, HQ 1.2 by 0.9 by 3. Again, Super X V1 AIO direct soldered motors. Old school Mobula 6 canopy for the maximum amount of no aerodynamics to make it nice and slow inside. And then it's got a Runcam Nano 3 for the camera and an A30 here. This I haven't actually flown yet, so I'm kind of looking forward to flying that. We'll fly that first. BetaFPV very kindly sent me their Race Air V2, 17.8 grams. It's the 30,000 kV motors, same propellers, 1.2 by 0.9 by 3. This is the new Air 65 V2 frame, the new Matrix AIO. I put this onto a ORT Micro V antenna, CO3 camera, and the new Air V2 canopy. This is the new Mobula 6 2024. So Crazy G473 AIO. It is now totally upgraded from Wednesday's live stream. Wednesday's live stream, we flew this Mobula 6 2024 V3 stock, and then last night or the night before, I tore it all the way down, and I put Weebleed 0702 40,000 kV motors on it, direct soldered, same propellers, 0.9 by 3, Cockroach 65 V3 frame, and then the RunCam Nano 5 camera with the Happy Model canopy and one of the red ORT micro V antennas. I also have not flown this one. I'm excited to fly this. This is replacing the previous Mobula 6 2024, which is the V1 here, which is for sale. And then we've got my two Newbie drone setups. Shout out to Newbie Drone for sending these over. This is the Hummingbird V4 with the motor plugs. This is a totally standard Hummingbird V4. Same propellers as the other ones. Mobula 6, Cockroach 65 V3 frame. Ultra lightweight little antenna to try to get it a little bit lighter. BI camera, Bri-Brain camera mount. And other than that, it's stock. It's on the Hummingbird 0702 30,000 kV motors. And then last but not least, Newbie Drone sent me their V2 race a while back. This is a totally stock V2 race other than the Bri-Brain camera mount. So this is their V2 BI camera. I'm pretty sure it comes with this ultra lightweight antenna. The Newbie Drone direct soldered super lightweight Hummingbird 0702 30,000s. This is on the light AF frame that it comes with. And then yeah, Bri-Brain mount and the same 1.6 by 0.9 by 3 propellers. This guy is 16.9 grams. The Hummingbird V4 is 18.3 grams. I think I remembered to say the weights on the rest. I started forgetting to tell you what these things weigh. So there you go. There's what everything weighs. Let's fly a few batteries, and then we will all go enjoy the rest of our Friday nights. I will go get some food. I'm starving like Marvin up in this mother. I'm going to fly the two that I just did a bunch of work to first because I'm excited. I want to see how they are. Let's grab these old FatShark HD3s. Metal Dirtskin's in the house. He says, I had the harebrained idea that the battery should be a bit forward since you spend a lot of time tilted that way flying ahead. Any validity to that? Sorta. It depends. It depends on the movement that you're making with the quad, right? We move these things around in all these crazy directions that, like, it's, you know, in some scenarios it might be better to have a little bit more weight in front. In some scenarios it won't be, but it'll be worse. So, like, as an example of that, when you pitch backwards, it's going to use thrust from the front two motors to accelerate that extra weight that it's got up here, and it's going to break the two rear motors down. When you pitch forwards, it's going to make power on the rear motors, and it's going to use braking on the front motors. And so, like, when you pitch forward, more weight on the nose, I think, is going to be worse because our motors don't do as good of a job braking as they do making more thrust. And so when you pitch forward, if you have too much weight on the nose, the rear motors are going to have to work harder. And so instead of this is what we want, right? This is like a perfect scenario where the front motors can brake as much as the rear motors can accelerate. That's not what's going to happen when you have more weight on the nose. The rear motors are going to have to do extra work. And so you're going to end up doing this. This is the motion that it's going to make. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, it's a super kind of dynamic thing. Like if the center of gravity is not perfect, it's always the safest to center up the center of gravity, because in all these wacky orientations, right? Also, like if we think about yaw, if we've got too much weight forward and we try to yaw, I'm assuming it's probably gonna yaw. Instead of yawing around the center, which is what we want, it's probably gonna yaw on this axis here because there's just more weight up front, right? And so with the center of gravity that's not dead center, the dynamics are going to change in a way that is not, you know, perfectly centered, and that's going to maybe overwork one motor versus the other, and like we kind of don't want that. So yeah, getting your CG as centered as possible tends to be really good. Here's another case where you'll notice CG being off, is you go full throttle and then you jump off the throttle. You're going full throttle and you've got more weight on the nose. When you come off the throttle, the nose seems to want to keep going, and so you'll get this little bobble. Anti-gravity will fix that, but it's using battery power to fix it, right? So like there's all these scenarios where like having a CG that's not quite dead center causes other things to kind of happen. And so for me, I spend a good amount of time thinking about and just figuring out how to get as centered of a CG as possible. And when I do that, I can usually tell. It's most evident when you're hammering the throttle. When you hammer and chop the throttle, if the CG is a little too front or a little too rear, you'll usually see it a little bit. When I nail the CG and I come off on and off the throttle, there's nothing. It just stays dead flat. And so yeah, it's not the biggest deal because anti-gravity works really well, and like typically you don't really notice much of that stuff, but it's there, and when we fix a bad behavior, it's always better for the bad behavior to not exist than to fix the bad behavior, right? One of the things that's always intrigued me about having too much weight up on the nose is that the front propellers get a wall of clean air, and so the front motors do less work than the rears. The rears have to pull the air from up higher because the front motors are pulling down this column of air, and so the rear motors have to work harder. And so if we weight the front more, in theory, that makes the front motors work a little bit harder, and then it eases some of the burden from the rears. And so when you're cruising forward, maybe having too much nose weight is better. But I don't just cruise forward, right? Then you start wiggling the sticks around and it all goes to hell. So there's, on a long range rig, might be worth it to weight the front. There's probably a way that you could figure that out. You could probably do a black box log and then look at in your steady state cruise, look at how much power is being requested from the motors, and then you could move your CG to the point where at your normal cruise where you want to be the most efficient possible, you're sending the same amount of power to all four motors. I think that would probably be the most efficient way to do that. But that's only on a long range rig, right? I wonder if that's something that the hardcore long range people do. Levster with a 5 squiggly line super chat. It might be pounds. He says, hey, thank you, brother. He says, I bought the Air 75 V2 Champion, but forgot to use your affiliate link. I learned so much from you. Thank you for everything. You're welcome, brother. Let us know how that thing is. I'm curious. Nyafu says, any reason you use the HD3 instead of HDZero? They look cool, if anything. They're much more comfortable. The HDZero goggles they're not uncomfortable, but they're not comfortable. These are the most comfortable goggles of all time. They're absolute magic. Old school FatSharks are the greatest. It suck because the DVR in them doesn't work normally, and when it does work, it looks like shit. Charlottesville Drone says, I've been watching too much of your content. Whenever I watch someone else's opinions other than yours, I immediately assume they're just wrong. Well, they might be. You never know. Is this battery dead? It is indeed. Let me swap this battery and then we'll start flying here. Well, I got 15 minutes. We'll squeeze as many batteries in as we can. What I want you guys to pay attention to is how these things fly different. I've hit you with all the different setups. When I do these live streams where I fly a bunch of different stuff, don't pay any attention to my flying. Pay attention to how often I'm crashing and pay attention to how each one of these different things flies. My hope is that you'll see one that flies the way that you want to fly, and then that's kind of what you want. So if there's one that's like super powerful and you like the way that looks, right? For me, it's about like, what does the flight footage look like? a really powerful, very lightweight setup is going to have a totally different look than a underpowered heavy setup, right? And everything in between. We're going to fly this little RC drift car chasing rig, and it's going to look completely different than anything else. That means something. Also, some of these builds have nice ORT micro V antennas. Some of them have really nice CP antennas. Some of them have janky little antennas, right? So you'll see the video quality change a little bit. Keep in mind that you guys are looking through you're not looking through these, right? I'm looking through these. You're looking through a VRX with a circular polarized antenna in it. So circular polarized antenna on the VRX to circular polarized antenna here should be the best. Most of these AIOs are in good condition. Some AIOs will have better VTXs than the others. The 2G4 tends to be pretty good. Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that I'm hoping that you guys are kind of noticing. But I need to call that out more because it might not be super obvious. First up is the fully upgraded Mobula 6 2024 V3. Maybe they should call it the Mobula 2026 because it just came out this year. But, you know, what do I know about business? I have not flown this yet. I don't even know if it'll fly. These are Weebleed 0702 40,000 kV motors, direct soldered. So this should make a lot of power. It's not super lightweight though, which I kind of like. I love the idea of having a powerful rig that's like 17 point something grams for good momentum and good throw. It should fly. I think I got the motor spinning the right direction. We're about to find out. Or not. Why is it not binding? Let's try turning it off and on again. Oh no. Don't you dare. Don't you dare not work. I didn't accidentally install the G473 with the blown up ELRS in it, did I? Let's try putting it into bind mode and rebinding. Once, twice, 3 times, and then I'll put this module into bind mode. Binding. Very strange. It lost its bind. I don't know. Weird. I'll keep an eye on that. Hopefully that doesn't keep working. You're looking through the RunCam Nano 5. It's their new camera with the screw holes in it. So these are the okay, that's not going well. These are the 40,000 kV motor. Oh boy, did I just knock this camera out of focus? Looks like I did. Oh man. It also feels like it is there's something going on with the tune. I did have the tune kind of cranked up a little bit from those low kV motors. Oh, for fuck's sake. So let's see what happened to the camera here. So it's out of focus, it's out of focus, it's out of focus, it's out of... Okay. Is there any point that it's in focus? No. It's never in focus. It's not even in focus all the way across the room. Okay. Well. That's... The Mobula 6 2024 V3 is significantly more expensive than the new Air 65 V2. The motors that it comes with are much less powerful. The first Crazy G 473 AIO that I had broke on like the third battery. And now the camera, the Runcam Nano 5 that this thing comes with, broke on the very first crash. And so as much as I've been in love with Happy Model over the years because their 2G4 is unbelievably good, I don't think anybody should buy the Mobula 6 2024 V3. This is a bit much. I'm willing to ignore some stuff, but this is way... I'm willing to say, like, you know, just bad luck, or, you know, maybe I just got a bad one. And in fairness, one of the 3 BetaFPV Matrix AIOs that they sent me is broken. So it's not like BetaFPV can do no wrong, but this is a bit much. This is too much. Wow, that's oh god, that's disappointing, man. I have no idea what could have killed this camera on that little crash. It's very weird that it's just completely out of focus. Usually, like, the lens will get knocked out of focus, and it'll be focused really close, or too close or too far, and then you just rotate the lens to fix the problem. This is not that, which makes me think that something happened to the sensor, especially because of the way that this camera is mounted. This camera is screwed down to the canopy, and the lens kind of can't rotate in there. So this camera just broke. The sensor popped loose, or something happened inside this camera. So we've got a camera that apparently can't take any abuse. We've got an AIO that 1 out of 2 died after like 3 batteries. It's a direct solder only AIO, which, as you know, I hate. So yeah. The Happy Model 2G4 AIO is my favorite AIO of all time, and I think you should maybe still get that AIO. But the Crazy X AIO that we're going to fly next, that came in the Mobula 6 2024 V1 and V2, is not as good as the 2G4. And so I really can't recommend this AIO. What a fucking bummer, man. The 40,000 kV motors feel pretty good, though. Not that I could really see where I was going, but they did have good power. Here comes the lightweight build. This is the V1 Mobula 6 2024 with direct soldered VCI 30,000 kV motors. This guy is considerably lighter. The camera in this is the old school Runcam Nano 3. It kind of like the old Happy Model Mobula 6 that had the Runcam Nano 3, that had this super durable canopy, that had the 2G4. That thing was magic. What is that sound? What in the Sam Hill was that noise? Ooh, God, what? Who's hitting on what? Let's go into turtle mode. We'll spin each motor up. It's the back. It's motor number 3. It's hitting on something. It's probably hitting on the duct. Also, these motors are not spinning in the right direction. Ooh, God, what is this one motor hitting? What are you hitting, little guy? in turtle mode, you can like spin a motor up really hard like that, and it'll usually self-clearance itself. Yeah, see, and now we're good. But the problem is that motor number 1 is spinning backwards, so I need to fix that real quick. McBucas says, another fine example of you saving us money. Thanks, dude. You're certainly welcome. Yeah, I might go into the live stream description from yesterday's Wednesday's live stream and remove the affiliate link to the Mobile 6 2024 V3. Because yeah, I don't want I try to be fair and like look for the things that are good, but like no motor plugs, doesn't seem to be very durable. I can't believe the camera broke on the very first hit. That's completely insane. You know, like that's a bit much. If you want a happy model build, buy a 2G4 and then Tiny Whoop or Weebleed motors and then go that route. Shit, man, what a bummer. I was really looking forward to this being like a good build. I put the 40,000 kV motors on it. I was all psyched up. What the hell? All right, so let's fly this 2024 V1 with a motor swap and all that jazz, and a frame swap and all that. Yikes, man. Fucking yikes. It also lost its bind, which was a little bit weird. I don't love when AIOs do that. This one is actually exhibiting that same behavior right now. It's not binding. Let's cycle the power. It was bound a minute ago. Dude, what the hell? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Come on, my transmitter. Bind mode. Press to send bind request. All right, it's bound again. What the hell, dude? Oh, come on now. I just fixed this. What the hell? Dude. Motors are not spinning the right direction again. I guess I rushed through it and maybe I didn't hit stop or save or something, I guess. I don't know. Yikes, bro. Motors, motor direction. I understand the risks. Wizard, start and spin. Motor 1 is wrong. Motor 2 is correct. Motor 4 is correct. Motor 3 is correct. Okay, stop motors. Close. That should be it. You shouldn't... It doesn't even let you hit save. Let's hit this. And let's test them. Oh, motor 1 is not reversing. So I have to go into ESC configurator and do it. Okay. I should have checked that. All right. ESC, not RESC, just ESC. Connect. Read settings. Motor 1 needs to be set to reversed. Rate settings, turn the transmitter off so it'll actually work. All right, motor 1's reversed. Rate settings, no changes. Okay, now we'll be good to go. Holy shnikes. Let's see if it lost its bind again. Hopefully not. All right. There we go. I put the battery in backwards. Come on. There we go. All right, let's try this again. Oh, my transmitter's off. Definitely won't bind with the transmitter off. Let me cycle the power again real quick. It'll bind quicker by me cycling the power like this. Hopefully it binds again. I don't have to rebind it. There it is. Now we're good. All right, here we go. VCI 0702 30,000 on a Mobula 6 2024 V1. Get off of there. Thank you. Oh, I've really gotten used to these VCI motors. This is very similar to what I've been flying for a while, so I feel pretty dialed on this. Hey. The Crazy X, I think this AIO is called. Somebody correct me in chat if I'm wrong. This is the AIO that came with the Mobula 6 2024 V1. This is a lighter AIO than the 2G4, but they sacrificed some capacitance, so there are less capacitors on here, and you can literally see that they've done that by the horizontal lines of video noise in here. If there was an easy way and clean way of adding an external capacitor to a tiny whoop, this would benefit from that. It would... What the fuck was that noise? And it went away. That would clean up some of this video noise, but there kind of isn't. There's not a good way of adding a capacitor, an external capacitor to these tiny whoop builds. From a weight standpoint, from a durability standpoint. And so, yeah, we typically don't do that. Other than the little bit of video noise, which goes away when it's not armed, right? Like, I guess it's kind of still there a little bit. But watch, when I arm it, it gets way worse. See? Goes away. It's there, goes away. Not there, there. And so, yeah, that is a lack of capacitance, which, you know, that happens when you struggle to make these things lighter and lighter and lighter, and you do that. That's one of the unintended consequences. Other than that, flies great though. Really good power from these VCI motors. They're direct soldered, so a little bit of efficiency boost there and power boost. These Crazy X AIOs have been fine from a durability standpoint. It seems like they might be better than the... Well, the Crazy G473 is fine on here. It's the camera that died, so I'll figure that out. I'm just annoyed right now. But yeah, flies great. Really good power to weight ratio. Moving on. We got a bunch to get through. Hummingbird. Well, no. Let's stick with happy model stuff. The last happy model build that we're gonna fly here is my RC drift car chasing setup. So this is basically a cinematic analog whoop, and it's got a CO3 camera. God knows of what generation this CO3 camera is. So now we are 0 up tilt, and I really try not to crash these so that they don't get jello or anything. So we're gonna crash it. We're gonna fly it slowly so that the crashes that it has are not vicious. And we're just gonna fly this thing around like a cinewhoop. The problem is adjusting to 0 up tilt is difficult, and it takes me time. And so I'm actually gonna fly this thing poorly, but I'm trying my best to adjust and not doing very well. But what this should be able to do is shoot itty bitty little gaps like that with no problem. But like, I'm just flying it like an idiot right now because 0 up tilt is just ridiculous. Like, it's just a whole different thing, man. The throttle, when you move the throttle, it sends the thing in a different direction than you're used to. It's super, super, super weird. But let me just kind of try to concentrate for a second here. Oh boy. Yeah, it's a whole different thing. I get used to it after a couple batteries when I'm chasing little RC drift cars, but man, it takes a minute. Whee! This is totally different than what I usually do. This is kind of boring to fly around here like this, if I'm completely honest, but I can try to find some different gaps that I don't usually shoot. Although I'm having a hard time flying it, so it's probably not a great idea. Zero up tilt is kind of fun because you can fly backwards like an absolute lunatic. And so that's actually what we should do here. We should just fly backwards for the whole battery. Although, it looks like the battery's dead already. Why is the battery dead after 2.5? Well, these are my beat-up batteries, so this might just be a battery that's beat up. This usually gets like 4 minutes of runtime. I don't know why it only got 2 minutes and 40, but hey. Is what it is. That is a totally different flight experience, and now I gotta try to adjust back in the other direction. Now we're going to go to the BetaFPV Race Edition V2. Totally stock other than an ORT micro V antenna. So you were just looking at video through a circular polarized antenna. Should have been super clean with like no breakup anywhere. If the door was open, I would have flown it upstairs, but alas. Okay. So now we're on a very fast frame. This Air 65 V2 frame has tiny little ducts, which mean that this thing absolutely hauls ass everywhere. These motors have a lot of power, and so the power to weight ratio is absurd. Oh my god. You're going to see a lot of crashes. But when I'm not crashing, it's pretty gnarly. But there's only like 5 seconds of that at a time. Because it's just so slidey. It's just so slippery. It's so fast. It's really difficult to get a handle on in a small space with a lot of gates, right? Like, this is a very busy, crowded room that I'm in. I typically rely on the Cockroach 65 V3 frame's tall ducts to slow these things down so that I can have any shot of not just drifting into 8,000 different things in this room. Oh, that ain't great. That VTX dropping out like that is not a good sign. That used to be one of the early signs that the old school BetaFPV AIOs were going to start to die. This is the new BetaFPV AIO that they said that they did a lot of crash testing on. I believe them. I've probably got 20 batteries through this. I crash a lot. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Let's keep going. 2 more. It's 10 after 9 already. CMYK says, 0 up tilt. Ew, that thing is set up for 3D. Almost. I fly it backwards chasing the RC drift cars as much as I fly it forwards. I'm dumb. Both of these newbie drone rigs are NX69. So, we're not going to fly either one of these. Whoopsie! Totally forgot. My bad. Okay. Well, let me fly this Crazy G473 again with the blurry out of focus camera. Do I have another camera I can drop into this? I don't. And I can't drop the camera in anyway because it's direct soldered. God damn it. Yeah, let's just fly it with a blurry camera. It's not that blurry. I want to see how these 40,000 kV motors are, especially compared to the. So these are Weebleed 0702 40,000 kV motors. Damn. Oh, you fart. Something else I noticed about this RunCam Nano 5 is that, and we tested this on Wednesday, the field of view is pretty low. Yeah, something definitely happened to the sensor because look, the bottom of the frame is in focus. See that? See, it says dynamic models. You can read it at the bottom, but then it's out of focus and it gets worse as it goes up. So the sensor has separated from the PDB on this camera on the very first crash. Oh no, not on the first crash, not on the first crash tonight. But I flew this camera on Wednesday a bunch. So okay, yeah, it didn't break on the first crash, but it broke way too early. So yeah, this RunCam Nano 5 is possibly junk. Happy Model has put a couple of different cameras on these Mobula 6 2024s. They started with the FXT camera, which I thought was the better option. And then they did the RunCam Nano 7, which looked just like the FXT, but it was also very fragile. They're having a rough time. So these are the Weebleed 40,000s. They feel pretty okay. They're not getting great runtime, though. I guess I landed a little bit early there. Let me, I could probably put... Where are we at in idle? Oh, yeah, there's much more here. I haven't flown these 40,000s in a while. I used to absolutely love them on these freestyle setups. They're not actually 40,000 kV, right? Because they're Weebleed motors. And as we know, Happy Model Weebleed Tiny Whoop motors are all... They have kV numbers that don't really represent the actual kV that you get. They're overstated. Unbelievable that I can so comfortably fly around here with the most blurry, ruined camera ever. Just because I've done a million batteries down here. Alright, so there we go. That's a more representative runtime. 2.5 minutes. What a shame, dude. Now I'm going to go back to the V1. Super X. Yeah, Super X AIO, which this is a Mobula 6 2024 V1, which is for sale. It's got these VCI 30,000 kV motors, which I think make about the same amount of power that I was just making on those 40,000 Weebleeds. Yeah, feels just like it. Oh, I caught the top of the that thing, that gate. The quicker you buy this, the less crashes I'll put through it. Oh my god, what am I doing? So this is a RunCam Nano 3 camera at a different up tilt. I'm absolutely flying a different up tilt right now. But the RunCam Nano 3 camera fits in this canopy and is incredibly durable and incredibly lightweight. Oh, the mirror flip fail. Oi! Yeah, wow, these VCI motors have seemingly the exact same amount of power as those Weebleed 40,000s, which is a lot. These are powerful motors. Ah! Hey! Oh, that ain't coming out, I don't think. Oh, look at me. Corkscrew in there. Ah! I love this setup, man. This Cockroach 65 V3 frame with this old school upside down ball sack Mobula 6 canopy. I love it, man. It's so accurate. Like, you turn and it turns. Let's compare the up tilt between the Runcam Nano 3 and the Runcam Nano 5. The Runcam, a lot of people complain about the Runcam Nano 3 not having a wide enough field of view. It doesn't bother me that much. I mean, like, it's when you have less field of view, you can see more clearly what's in front of you. And so it's kind of cool for shooting small gaps. I'm curious, though. Let's see. So I do this field of view test in the same spot every time, which is I put this little ORT sticker on the desk here. And so I always put them right here. And then what we look for is the door on the right side of the frame, or in this case, we'll just look for the purple and red light. And then on the left side of the frame here, we look for the monitor. And so if I put the red and purple light on the right there, on the monitor, we have just a little bit of the OBS window. This is the Runcam Nano 3. And then if we do the Runcam Nano 5, put it on the same spot. It's hard to tell because it's super blurry, but it looks like the red and purple lamp is on the right there. Wow, it's got either exactly the same or that might be a little bit less field of view than the Runcam Nano 3. As a point of comparison, here's the CO3, which will have more field of view, a more traditional field of view. And so you can see I've actually got the second monitor on the left side of the frame and more of the red and purple camera on the right. If I put the red and purple camera all the way on the edge of the right, I get a lot more field of view here. So Runcam Nano 5 looks like it's got the same field of view as the Runcam Nano 3, which is kind of silly. We've always sort of speculated that the Runcam Nano 3 has such a shallow field of view because the lens is so small, but that's what makes it really durable and really lightweight. The Runcam Nano 5's got no excuses. It's got a lens, it's got a big heavy lens, just like the CO3 and all the other cameras. It's very weird that they wouldn't make it wider field of view. Not that it matters in this case because the fucking sensor died on mine. So I don't know. I guess I will switch this to a Runcam Nano 3 with the full-size canopy because I don't have any more of these cameras that work in this Mobula 6 2024 canopy, which is a shame because this Mobula G-string banana hammock canopy is really durable and it's really lightweight. I actually like this canopy better than the BetaFPV G-string canopies, but and I like the way that the cameras mount into it. The cameras mount to it with screws. And so you put a screw through the PCB of the camera into the mount, and now the camera is never going to rotate. The camera is dead on the money all the time. But there aren't many cameras that have the screw holes to mount like this, and the goddamn cameras keep breaking. Maybe because of the way that they mount. I kind of like the FXT camera, but you can't get that anymore. And then the Runcam Nano 7 came out, and I bet you can't get that anymore. Runcam Nano 7. Let's see. Discontinued. Maybe Weebleed still has one. Okay, Weebleed has 88 of them. And so the Runcam Nano 7 I like a lot better than the Runcam Nano 5 that just broke in here. Although I have had a Runcam Nano 7 break pretty prematurely. But at least it doesn't have the shallow field of view. Although this says that it does have pretty shallow field of view. I don't know. Disappointing. Disappointing. Could totally be a fluke, but I doubt it. I think that my guess is going to be that these cameras in this mount, it's a bad scenario. I bet you having these cameras screwed into this mount, when this crashes and it flexes this mount, it's breaking the PCB, because I've broken an FXT, a Runcam Nano 7, and now a Runcam Nano 5. And the Runcam Nano 7 and this Runcam Nano 5 broke really quickly, really early. The old school canopy mount, it has the same screw mount setup, but there's a separate carrier. There's the canopy, and then there's a separate piece of plastic in the canopy that the camera screws to, so that if the canopy flexes, it doesn't flex the camera. And so, and I mean, you could run the Runcam Nano 7, Nano 5, FXT. You could put those into this canopy, but don't do that. This canopy is kind of heavy. The Runcam Nano 3 is light. I sell these Runcam Nano 3s on my Etsy store. I have a bunch of them. This is the setup right here. It's got the same field of view as the Nano 5, but it's lighter, and it's in a more durable canopy. So yeah, these canopies are good, but they break the cameras, at which point they're bad. So I am gonna rip this apart again, because the camera is direct soldered, so I have to take it all the way apart to swap the camera out. And now that the motors are direct soldered, I'm gonna have to unscrew all the goddamn motors. But I'll do it. I'll take this apart again, and I'll swap the camera this time, at which point I will have swapped the frame, the motors, the props, the camera, the canopy, and so the only thing left is the AIO. So don't buy the Mobula 7 2024 V3, because the camera and canopy are going to break, the motors are too low of a KV, the frame is not terrible, but it's also not great. It does come with good propellers, though. But you can just spend $4 and get the same propellers that it comes with. That's tough, man. I love Happy Model as a company. The fact that they made the 2G4 will forever make me love Happy Model as a company. And they have some other stuff that's good. And maybe this crazy G473 is really good. I don't like that it's direct solder only. I don't like that the ELRS blew up on this one, like 3 batteries in. But maybe that was a fluke, just like the BetaFPV Matrix AIO that bricked right away was possibly just a fluke, right? But don't buy the Mobula 6 2024 V3. There are too many components that it comes with that are seemingly a mess. Sorry, Happy Model. I really do appreciate that you've sent me a bunch of stuff, and you've been, kind to me. The X12 is another amazing AIO, right? Like, Happy Model has a bunch of stuff that's really, really, really good. The X14 seems like it's pretty good. But they seem to be having a rough time lately. Matt Anderson says, no ELRS 4 on SPI receivers like the 2G4, but why not just keep a spare module on 3.6? I'm just not going to ELRS 4 because there's nothing about ELRS 4 that really I care about or that helps me in any way. FPV says, when I started the Mobula 6, I bought 2G4, 802, 27,000, and Ant Light. First AIO lasted through a bunch of builds. Yeah, the 2G4 is madness. So good. No, we got that. Dylan Moe says, would bi-blades on the Air 65 work outside, seeing as it's so fast out of the box? Absolutely. I did a live stream about flying tiny whoops outside where I did exactly that, and it was a blast. So if you come to my channel and click the little hidden magnifying glass here and search for Outdoor 65, that might find it. There it is, 1S Outdoor Kings. What is the 1S Outdoor Whoop King? That's the live stream. I did exactly that build, so you'll get to see the flight performance and all that jazz. Metal Richardson says, you still got a circa 2020 Ultimate Freestyle build in the fleet. Would be interesting to fly that off against the newer ones and see how far we have come. I did. I sent it to Spider Sugar late last year for him to check out, and he hasn't had a chance to yet. I'm gonna give it another couple months, and then at some point I'm just gonna be like, hey, can you send it back? It's all good. I'm not mad at him at all. People send me shit, and it takes me forever to try it and test it and whatever. It's totally cool, but I don't have an old school. I was kind of hoping that this would maybe sort of take its place. But yeah, the closest thing that I have to that right now is this guy here with the V1. I thought that I did actually have exactly that. An old school Ultimate Freestyle Whoop, but apparently I've cannibalized it enough. The 2G4, a bunch of my 2G4 AIOs have wound up in these RC drift car chase rigs because it gives such a clean video signal. But I swore to God that I broke that 2G4 and then I put it back together with the Yeah, wait, where's that VCI motored rig? I am missing a build. I knew I had one. Where the hell is it? Oh, for fuck's sake. Here it is. I missed this little double 65mm whoop container. Yeah, it doesn't have the I changed the canopy though, so I actually don't. But this is it. This is my 2G4 freestyle rig. I changed the canopy when I was doing tests. When I was testing the VCI motors, plugs versus no plugs. So yeah, this needs the canopy changed back to the old school canopy, and then I'll switch this back to the other motors. I forgot about this one. Well, you got to see most of the fleet. Frank Dr. Nicholas with the last comment of the live stream. He says sensor tilted versus lens, maybe lens or board, one or the other. Yeah, the way that the camera is screwed into the mount, I don't think there's any way that the lens or board could have shifted. But let's just see. Let's put a screwdriver on these screws and see what happens. It doesn't look like there's any gap. Or is there? Oh, no. That just pulled the board back in. How did that move, though? See, yeah, this is a problem. This is a flimsy canopy, right? These G-string canopies are super flimsy, and then you're drilling a thin PCB into it, and so that is absolutely what happened on that particular crash. It flexed this canopy, and then the top screw here backed out because of that bending force that got put on it. I wonder if and that probably broke the lens mount off of the PCB a little bit. I bet you it's not blurry anymore. No, it's still blurry. Wishful thinking. So yeah, it broke the camera. It broke the camera, which is a shame. But Yeah, you know, this is how we find those weaknesses. So yeah, it broke the, and it only has to be off the tiniest little bit. You know, these things are, like I always say, it's a miracle that we can crash these cameras at all and have them not die. You shift any little bit like that and it's just game over. It comes out of focus. It just breaks altogether. And so yeah, this Mobula 6 2024 style canopy with these screwed down cameras, I think that's a problem. I don't think that's in my experience, that has been a problem. That has caused a bunch of these cameras to fail. If you never crash, you'll probably be okay. But start crashing. You'll become a better pilot by crashing more often. But yeah, it definitely backed. I think it pulled the it slipped a thread basically. Now, yeah, this camera's wrecked. Yeah, that's a shame. But this is how we learn. Maybe I just saved you some money. Hook a brother up. Go to CiottiFPV.com and support me. I'll save you some more money next time. Join my Patreon. That's the best way that you can support me so that I can test more shit and tell you what not to buy. Cool? Thanks for hanging, friends. I'll see you Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. And there'll be an edit dropping on the channel tomorrow at some point. Hopefully, if I remember. If I don't get super busy. Love you. Bye! Here comes some more Pro Turtle 2.5-inch flying. Here comes the battery that I flew really hard when I was in a hurry because it was right before the live stream started with the Emax Avan Blur 2.5-inch.
All right, one more. We're on to the Emax Avan Rush 2.5-inch propellers.
Yeah. Out in the yard where the grass grows wild, CiottiFPV's goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy Spaghetti's fur flies and jet wash dreams. Yeah. Chasing small whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, hard in the chase. Big fuzz and prop spin all tangled in place. Yeah. Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail in the circus of the sky. They never fail. CiottiFPV, Teddy Spaghetti, dynamic duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed. They zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Soddy's on sticks, Teddy's on paws. Side by side, legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen, over couch scale terrain. Backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz, fuel, fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah, yo, Soddy behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle. Mike Day on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive. Teddy push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc, got the sticks locked in. Teddy, yeah. Let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind. Teddy, yep, yeah. CiottiFPV, Teddy Spaghetti, diamond and duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed. Zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. done FPVs, fur-faced legends, legends sing it loud, yeah. Teddy, Spaghetti, and CiottiFPV, always proud.